Hey y'all, so this is part of the video that you're going to see for your foreground area. One thing that I want you to think about whenever you're doing something that has something on top of something that's below it, you're going to do what is below, like the paint palette first. Because if you think about it, when we're going background to foreground, this is kind of the background, and then this stuff is on top of it in a way, although this is in the foreground. So you do the underneath and then you work up from that. So I talked to you guys a little bit about using browns, and you can obviously use that accent color in your pack, preferably the blue. But there are several different colors actually in my little palette. So I've got a yellow, I've got a little bit of, actually I have yellow, red, blue. I have all the colors, by the way. And then I also have a bit of this brown. You don't want to put brown, I would say, initially first, especially because this palette is relatively light. What I do is I start out with the lightest color that's going to be on there. We are keeping with the same direction that we did before. We're going to have it darker around the edges wherever you perceive there to be a heavier line, and then it'll get a little bit lighter as you go in towards the middle. This little side right here, it's up and down, so I know you can't probably see a whole lot what I'm doing, but I'm just going up and down right here. This is going to be the darkest point of the palette. This will be relatively dark in some spots, like as you come in to the center. It probably ain't gonna be that dark right there. So I'll outline this just super duper lightly with my yellow all the way around, and I'll start with the process of just hatching. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the surface of this, and basically I'm taking it in the direction of my surface. I'm not making any marks. I'm just kind of showing you guys the direction that my surface is going. And one way to tell what your direction is, look at the back line, or if you see a front line right here. So my background, I mean, or back line, it is sort of curved, I guess. But you are gonna go like this way with your line. So however you wanna do it so that you won't get lost with your lines. Now, we know it's gonna be a little bit heavier around the edge here. And one thing, so that you won't get lost, what I end up doing is I end up making just a few guidelines so that I'll remember as I'm making things dark around my edges and lighter in the middle where I need to go with the rest of my lines. So I've got those little guidelines kind of helping me out right there. So we'll do a little bit. This is, like I said, this is not going to be incredibly dark. So I'm going to do just a little bit of blending and stuff around my edge. I'll do a little bit. I'm just going up and down, y'all. So that edge would be up and down. I'm going to do a little bit here. Main thing, I'm keeping my yellow light because I don't want it to overpower the yellow that I'm actually going to add as my paint color. It's here and there. Okay, so I may layer a little bit more, but next thing that I'm going to do, and this is going to be really, really light. This red is going to look kind of orange when I go through this, but so I'm going like crazy light, streaking this thing in. And I'm creating, I'm kind of going over this yellow, and I am creating that illusion that there's orange right there. Although this is primary, I'm limited to these three colors, but I can, if I want, overlay some colors to make it happen. So so I don't get lost, I'm kind of pulling some little guideline colors just through my little surface. I'm creating a bit more contrast around the edges right here. And I'll do a little bit more contrast with my lines right there around the edge. I won't do too much back here, because as it goes back here, it does get visibly lighter as you go. I'll do a little bit of shadow with my red. A lot of the shadow is going to end up being like blue and brown right here. I may end up doing a little bit more, but not much. I want to keep this palette kind of washy, kind of transparent. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a little bit of this blue right here. So this blue, it's mainly going to go in my shadow area. So if you have an area where you need to add shadow, blue, as well as we're going to introduce a little bit of brown to this just to give it a really nice gray. If you need a dark area, it's a good thing to do. There's a teeny bit of this. It looks to me like the most blue that I'm going to use is going to be that light sky blue. I'm putting a little bit of this blue underneath here. You can take a cast shadow that you made and kind of pull a blue. So instead of adding black right there, add a little bit of blue, and it'll make a big difference. So I'm just taking it, I'm actually taking in the direction of my form. I'm just making, you know, my lines going horizontally, okay? Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's all of that. Also, because this is up against that blue in the sky, atmospherically, you need to have a little bit of that blue introduced, especially to the back of this thing. So it may end up looking kind of green, but I'm going to introduce just a bit. It's going to reflect off of that sky, and I'll do a little bit of it down here. You can add a little under your cast shadow if you want to. Okay, and so the last thing that I'm going to add here is going to be my brown, because it is the darkest thing. It's my neutral and all of that. I'm going to add my brown right here in my dark area here. And I'm creating this little gray. It's called Payne's Gray, which is like a blue brown color, which is very nice. I'm going to introduce a little bit of my brown right here, a little bit of it here. You'll see that kind of light Payne's Gray that just occurred right there. I'll neutralize that blue. So if your blue gets too heavy, or if any of your colors get too heavy or too bold or too bright, what you'll do is you'll add brown to it. And what it does is it dulls it. It makes it look a little bit more natural and neutralized. You can see with the blue and the brown, you see how I created a gray. So you really do not need your black in your pack for any kind of cast shadow or any kind of darkness if you have those two colors. So I'm going to just briefly just pull. I'm going horizontal again. I'll pull a little bit of this brown through here. You can, like I said, work on the edges to make the edges a little bit heavier. And then just pull it through just a little bit of your center. And you should be good to go with that. And feel free to, if you need to make some things darker, you can. I'm just layering some colors that I'd already done over that. You can always go back to what you have done before and layer some things. But I think, you know, in general, I think we're good. I'll show you this one. My other one that's actually complete. It's it looks like my palette is slightly lighter. And you can see my mark making a little bit more on that one as opposed to this one. I think either way is absolutely fine, so it's really your preference. The main thing is just keep those rules of keeping things more dark around the edges, lighter in the middle. You're going to go in the direction of your form, and you're yeah, just make sure you're including the correct colors. So I'm going to make another video on the actual foreground